Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into the warm, golden sands of ancient Egypt. But we're not raiding any tombs or bothering any pharaohs. No, tonight you are just a regular person. A craftsman, maybe, living a quiet life with your family in a small village nestled by the life-giving Nile. The problem is, your life has been so quiet lately. Your home, your sanctuary, has some uninvited guests of the spectral variety, and frankly, their late-night antics are ruining your sleep. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. As always, I love seeing where our little community is listening from. So drop your city and the time in the comments below. It makes the world feel a little smaller. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sun is setting over the western desert, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange soft lavender. The heat of the day, a heavy blanket that smothered the village, finally begins to lift, replaced by a gentle breeze that carries the scent of the river damp earth, green reeds, and the faint, sweet smell of lotus blossoms. Your home, like all the others crowded along the dusty lane, is made of mud minus brick, a comforting, organic structure that seems to have grown right out of the soil it stands on. You built it yourself, with the help of your neighbors, brick by sun minus dry brick. It is your fortress, your nest, the center of your world. From the flat roof where you now sit, mending a fishing net, you can hear the familiar sounds of your life unfolding below. Your wife, Merit, is grinding wheat, the rhythmic scrape and crunch of the stones a steady heartbeat for the household. Your two young children are chasing each other in the small, enclosed courtyard, their shrieks of laughter echoing off the warm walls. These are the sounds of Merit, of harmony in the world in its proper order. They are sounds you have cherished every evening of your adult life. But lately, other sounds have begun to weave themselves into this familiar tapestry. Faint, unwelcome threads in a perfect cloth. It started subtly, a whisper that seemed to ride on the edge of the wind, too soft to be sure, the flicker of a shadow in your peripheral vision. Gone when you turned to look. You dismissed it at first. The house is old, houses settle, the wind plays tricks. But then the whispers became clearer. Last night, as you lay on your reed mat, you heard it distinctly, a soft, sibilant hissing from the corner where the grain jars are stored, a sound that made the fine hairs on your arm stand up. Merit heard it too. You saw the whites of her eyes gleam in the moonlight. Tonight, as the children's laughter fades and Merit calls them in for the evening meal, a profound quiet settles, but it's not a peaceful quiet. It's a holding minus breath kind of quiet. You finish your work and descend the steep wooden ladder into the main room. The air inside is thick with the comforting smell of freshly baked flatbread, but there's an undercurrent of chill that has nothing to do with the evening air. Use it with your family on the floor, sharing bread and a stew of lentils and onions. Everything seems normal, yet you find yourself glancing towards the dark corners of the room, listening for more than the sound of your own chewing. After the meal, as Merit is putting the children to sleep on their mats, you hear a soft thump from the roof, directly above you, like a cat landing. But you have no cat. You look at Merit. She looks at you, her eyes wide. You force a reassuring smile and climb the ladder to check. The roof is empty. The moon casts a silvery light over the packed mud surface, revealing nothing but a few scattered palm fronds from a neighbor's tree. There are no footprints. Nothing. This is the nature of the disturbance. It is short. It is elusive. It is just enough to unravel the edges of your peace. It's a classic haunting, Egyptian minus style. Historians and Egyptologists still debate how the average Egyptian viewed the spirit world that surrounded them. While the spirits of well scared minus her ancestors, the aka true, were seen as benevolent protectors, there was a whole host of other entities, ghosts of the unburied, minor demons, or simply mischievous sprites that could cause trouble. Was the thing in your house a lost soul, or something else entirely? This uncertainty is what gnaws at you. You know about Ika, the magic that underpins all of creation, the power the gods use, It exists in everything, a neutral force like heat or light, but it can be wielded for ill, and it can certainly be disturbed. You can't help but wonder if the heat core of your own home has been twisted, thrown out of balance by this unseen intruder. The house feels wrong, its energy is sour. You lie down on your mat for the night, the weight of the day pressing down on you. Merritt and the children are asleep, their breathing soft and regular, but you are wide awake, listening. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind in the thatch, every distant bark of a dog makes you tense. You are a stranger in your own home, an intruder in your own bed. The harmony of your life is broken, and you know, with a sinking feeling in your stomach, that you do not have the power to fix it yourself. You need help. You need a protector. You need a goddess. The next morning arrives with the sun's relentless, cheerful glare. The world outside your four walls seems perfectly ordinary. The sounds of the village waking up Donkey's brain, children calling out, the distant clang of a smith's hammer are all blessedly normal. You throw yourself into your work, whether it's shaping clay for pots or weaving new baskets from reeds gathered at the riverbank. You try to lose yourself in the familiar, repetitive motions of your craft, hoping to sweat out the unease of the night before. You tell yourself it was just the wind, a loose roof timber, an overactive imagination fueled by too little sleep. But the house seems to hold its breath around you. The harmony, the mayat, is fractured, and the harder you try to ignore the cracks, the wider they seem to become. The first undeniable sign comes in the afternoon. Your youngest child, a daughter with her mother's bright eyes, begins to wail. She is pointing to the top of a tall clay amphora, one used for storing water, that stands in the corner of the main room. Perched precariously on its curved shoulder is her favorite toy, a small, crudely carved wooden hippo. It is her comfort, her little protector, but there is no possible way she could have placed it up there. The jar is twice her height. Even you would need to stand on your toes to reach it. Merritt takes the crying child into her arms, shooting you a look that is no longer just fearful, but deeply worried. You retrieve the toy, your hand brushing against the cool clay of the jar. The hippo is not just placed there, it feels deliberately, almost mockingly, displayed. Later, as the sun begins its descent and the room fills with the orange glow of twilight, you feel it, a sudden, intense cold. It's not a draught, it's a distinct pocket of chill in the otherwise sweltering room, as if someone opened a door to a damp winter cellar for just a moment. It passes right through you, raising goosebumps on your skin, before vanishing as quickly as it came. You stop what you're doing, looking around the empty space. Nothing has changed. The air is still warm, but the feeling was real. You try to rationalize it. A trick of the air, a strange current, but the excuses are wearing thin, like an old fishing net full of holes. The ancient Egyptians had a profound sense of cosmic order, and your home, a microcosm of that universe, is falling into isfet, into chaos. The little things are adding up. A whisper, a thump, a displaced toy, a phantom cold. They are the subtle work of a force that is actively trying to unmake your peace. The true test comes, as it always does, in the deep of the night. The oil lamp sputters, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Merritt and the children are asleep, their breathing a soft, vulnerable sound in the darkness. You lie awake, your eyes tracing the familiar shapes of your home, the row of grain jars, the loom standing silent in the corner, the curve of a basket. The shadow cast by the largest grain jar is a solid, comforting shape you have known your whole life. And then you see it. It is not a flicker, it is a movement. A small part of the jar's shadow, a dark tendril near the floor, detaches itself. It peels away from its source with an unnatural fluidity, like a drop of black ink separating from a still. It is no longer a shadow. It is a thing that is made of shadow. It glides across the mud-minus brick floor, a flat, silent predator, moving with a purpose that makes your blood run cold. It flows past the sleeping mats of your children, a river of darkness, and disappears into the deeper gloom beneath the loom. The whole event lasts no more than 3 heartbeats. You don't cry out. The fear is too deep, too cold for sound. You are utterly, completely still. You have seen it. There is no denying it now. Your home is shared. What is this thing? Scholars of a future age will argue endlessly about the taxonomy of Egyptian spirits. They will debate whether the common folk distinguished between a kabid, a shadow minus, spirit tied to a soul, a malevolent mut, the ghost of an angry dead person, or rather, nameless entity. But you, lying on your reed mat, have no such academic luxury. You don't know its name. You don't know what it wants. All you know is that it is here, and it is wrong. This creeping shadow, this violation of light and logic, feels far more sinister than a simple lost spirit. It is an invasion. Your home is no longer a shield. It is a hunting ground, and tonight, you feel very much like the prey. Sleep did not come. You lay on your mat, a sentinel in the dark, every sense stretched to its breaking point. You listened for the hiss, watched for the creeping shadow, but the entity, whatever it was, remained hidden. Perhaps it knew it had been seen. The silence it left behind was somehow worse, filled with the buzzing of your own fear. When dawn finally broke, its familiar light felt like a reprieve, but not a cure. The shadow was merely waiting for the sun to leave again. You cannot go on like this. The lack of sleep is hollowing you out, and the fear is a constant, bitter taste in your mouth. Mary tries to be brave, but you see the dark circles under her eyes, the way she startles at every small sound. The children, sensing the tension, are subdued and clingy. The joy is being bled from your home, drop by drop. That afternoon, you make a decision. You leave Merrick watching the children and walk down the dusty lane, past the pens of bleating goats and the houses of your neighbors, to the small, neat home at the very edge of the village. This is where your wife's grandmother lies, an old woman, bent and wrinkled as a dried fig, but with eyes that still hold the sharp, tear light of the Nile. She has seen more floods and more droughts than you have years, and her mind is a deep well of ancient knowledge, the kind that is never written on papiers, but passed down from mother to daughter. You find her sitting in her small, sun-dappled courtyard, grinding herbs with a stone pestle. The air smells of mint and chamomile. She looks up as you approach, her gaze knowing. She does not seem surprised to see the worry etched on your face. You sit before her, and the story tumbles out the whispers, the cold spots, the displaced toy, and finally, your voice dropping to a near whisper, the creeping shadow that peeled itself from the wall. She listens patiently, her hands never ceasing their rhythmic grinding. She does not scoff. She does not dismiss your fear. When you finish, she sets her pestle down and looks you square in the eye. Your house is unprotected, she says, her voice a dry rustle of reeds. The walls are strong, the roof is sound, but you have no guardian. When a house is empty of a protector, other things, unsettled things, will try to make it their own. They slip through the cracks of the world. She rises slowly, her old bones creaking, and disappears into the cool darkness of her home. You wait, the scent of the herbs are coming back. She returns a moment later, her old fist clenched. She opens her hand. Lying in her palm is a small, beautiful object, no bigger than your thumb. It's an amulet, a mikayutu, made of a glassy, greenish minus blue ceramic known as faience. It is worn smooth from years of handling, but its shape is unmistakable. It is a cat, sitting upright, elegant and alert. She is the lady of the East, the old woman says, her voice taking on a formal, reverent tone, the protector of the home, the slayer of the serpent of darkness. She is the mistress of joy and music, and her wrath is the fire of the sun itself. She is Bastet. The name hangs in the air. Bastet, you have heard it before, of course, in chants and prayers, but it had always been a distant, formal name, one of the great pantheon. No, hearing it from the old woman's lips, it becomes something intimate, something powerful and present. She presses the cool, smooth amulet into your hand. The cat sees what we cannot, she says, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. They see the spirits. They walk in the spaces between worlds. This is why she is the one who guards us from the things that creep in the shadows. The little horrors, the ones who hiss and whisper and steal your peace. This idea is a strange and powerful one that the common, sleepy creatures that warm themselves by the hearth have a secret side. How much of this was official temple doctrine and how much was the practical, day-to-day folk belief of the Egyptian people? Historians still debate this. The grand myths of creation and the afterlife were the domain of the priests. But for the common person, religion was often a much more personal and immediate affair, a web of household gods, protective amulets, and local traditions designed to navigate the dangers of daily life. The old woman instructs you to hang the amulet over the main doorway of your home. It is a sign, she explains, a warning to those who would enter uninvited. It tells them this house is under her protection. You clutch the fire's cat, its coolness a solid reality in your sweaty palm. You came here with a nameless dread, a creeping sense of powerlessness. You are leaving with a name to whisper back into the darkness. You have a shield, however small. The fear is still there, a cold knot in your stomach, but it is no longer absolute. No, it has an opponent. Tonight, when the shadows lengthen, you will not be entirely alone. You have the name of a goddess in the shape of a cat to stand between your family and the dark. You walk back from the old woman's house. As the sky deepens from orange to a bruised purple, the fire's amulet is a cool, solid weight in your sweating palm. It feels impossibly small to stand against the formless dread that has taken root in your home, yet it is all you have. When you reach your doorway, you don't hesitate. You take a strip of leather cord and, with fumbling fingers, tie the little blue-green cat so that it hangs from a wooden peg just inside the lintel. It is a tiny sentinel, catching the last of the evening light, a small, silent declaration that this house is no longer undefended. Merit watches you, her expression a mixture of hope and skepticism. She touches the amulet gently with one finger. "Grandmother gave you this?" she asks. You nod, unable to speak past the lump of fear in your throat. She says we need the protection of Bastet. Merit's gaze softens with a deep, inherited understanding. She leads you to the small stool by the hearth, away from the prying ears of the children, who are already bundled on their sleeping mats. The name has power, she says quietly, but you must understand who you are calling upon. She is not just the keeper of the hearth. That is only half of her story. And so, in the flickering glow of a single oil lamp, your wife becomes your teacher. She tells you that, in the oldest of days, in the time of the gods, there was no gentle cat goddess. There was only Sekhmet. The name itself sends a shiver through you. Sekhmet, the powerful one, the lady of slaughter. She was a goddess of the lioness, the rage of the sun made manifest. When the great sun god Ra grew angry with rebellious mankind, it was Sekhmet he sent to exact punishment. She was plague and fire, a terror that stalked the land. Her breath, the hot desert wind, her eyes burning with a terrible light. She reveled in her slaughter, wading through the blood of her victims, her roar shaking the very foundations of the world. She was so consumed by her bloodlust that she almost wiped out all of humanity. Ra, horrified by the carnage he had unleashed, had to trick her to stop her. He ordered vast quantities of beer to be brewed and dyed red with ochre and pomegranate juice to look like blood. They poured this mixture over the fields, and Sekhmet, thinking it was a great pool of blood, began to drink. She drank until she was utterly, completely drunk, and she fell into a deep, 3-day sleep. When she awoke, her rage was gone, her bloodlust slaked. She was peaceful. That, Merit whispers, her eyes gleaming in the lamplight, is when she became Bastet. You stare at her, trying to comprehend this. The gentle protector of the home, the mistress of music and joy, was born from a drunken, blood-soaked tree. It seems impossible. So they are the same? You ask. Merit tilts her head. They are and they are not. They are two sides of the same divine coin. Sekhmet is the scorching, deadly heat of the noonday sun. Bastet is its life minus giving warmth in the morning. Sekhmet is the lioness who hunts in the desert wastes. Bastet is the cat who sleeps by your fire, but the lioness always sleeps within the cat. Never forget that. Historians and theologians debate this relationship endlessly. Was Bastet simply Sekhmet in a better mood? Or were they two faces of the same divine power? A dualism that represented the fundamentally dangerous but also nurturing character of the sun. This concept of a deity having a fierce and a gentle form was common in Egyptian religion, a way of reconciling the terrifying, unbenevolent aspects of nature. Her titles reflected this. In one town, she might be invoked as the Lady of Dread, and in another, as the Lady of Lull. This new knowledge changes everything. The little amulet hanging by your door is no longer just a graceful, seated cat. It is a symbol of a lioness leash, her power turned from destruction to protection. The goddess you have invited into your home is not merely a passive guardian. She is a dormant warrior, the keeper of an ancient and terrible fury. The whispers and shadows that plagued your house suddenly seem very foolish, very small, for daring to trespass in a place guarded by such a power. You look at the amulet with new eyes, with a new respect that borders on fear. You understand now why the old woman spoke her name with such reverence. You are not just asking a cat to scare away a mouse. You are asking a lioness to guard your home from the serpents of the dark. And as you lie down on your mat, the silence of the house feels different. It's no longer empty. It feels watchful. The air is still, but it seems to hum with a low, powerful purr, the quiet promise of a roar held in reserve. Tonight, you have put a lioness on your door. The faience amulet of the lioness minus cat hangs by the door, a small spot of turquoise against the earthy brown of the mud minus brick wall. A few days have passed, and while the house does feel calmer, the change is subtle, almost imperceptible. The oppressive feeling of being watched has lessened, but you still find yourself tensing at every creak and groan of the old house. The shadow has not returned, but its memory lingers like a stain. An amulet, it seems, is a good start, but it is not enough. You have shown the trespassing spirits the sign on your door, but you have not yet made your home an unwelcoming place for them. Merit's grandmother, ever the wellspring of practical wisdom, provides the next step. She sends word by our neighbor's child that a sign is a silent prayer, but an offering is a voice that the gods can hear. She is a goddess, not a servant. The message declares, you must show her respect. You must welcome her into your heart, not just your doorway. And so your education and household ritual begins. It is not the grand, complex ceremony of the temples, with their processions of priests and clouds of expensive incense. This is simple, domestic magic, the kind woven into the fabric of daily life. The first instruction is about beer. Beer is a cornerstone of your existence. It is your daily drink, a form of payment for labor, and a staple of your diet. But it is also a sacred substance. You remember Merit's story of how beer, dyed red, was used to pacify the raging Sekhmet. The connection is direct and powerful. Merit's grandmother instructs you to take a small portion from every batch of beer you brew. Not the dregs, but a good, clean pour, offered before the family partakies. That evening, Merit brings a small, hand-sized ceramic bowl, one usually used for salt or spices. You carefully pour a measure of the cool, frothy beer into it, the grainy, yeasty smell filling the air. This is not a grand libation. It is a gesture of sharing. You are not just giving the goddess an object. You are sharing your sustenance with her. You are inviting her to your table. Merit shows you where to place the offering, not on a grand altar, but on a small, clean space on the hearth, the heart of the home. You place the bowl down carefully. The beer shimmers in the lamplight. It feels strange, leaving a perfectly good drink for an unseen guest. But as you do it, you speak her name, not in a loud prayer, but in a quiet murmur. For Bastet, the act, small as it is, feels significant. It grounds the abstract idea of the goddess in a physical, tangible reality. This practice of household offerings is well documented, though the specifics are often debated by scholars. While the great gods receive mountains of food in their temples, which was then redistributed to the priests and temple staff, what did the common person's offering entail? Did they believe the goddess literally consumed the beer? Most likely not. The prevailing belief was that the gods consumed the essence or the spiritual quality of the offering. The physical beer might evaporate or be respectfully disposed of later, but its symbolic nourishment had been received. The second part of the ritual involves sound. Merit's grandmother insisted that Bastet, as the mistress of joy, abhors a sullen, fearful silence. She loves music, rattles, the clapping of hands. Silence is a space that the whispering spirits can fill. So Merit brings out a sea drum. It's a simple rattle, a U-shaped loop of bronze with small metal discs strung on crossbars. When you shake it, it produces a loud, clattering, jingling sound. It's not exactly musical, but it's a joyful, cleansing noise. These instruments were commonly used in temple rituals. That smaller, simpler versions were found in many homes. The instructions are to make noise at sunrise and sunset, the liminal times when the veil between worlds is thinnest, so as the last of the sun's rays disappear. Merit stands in the center of the room and shakes the sea drum. The sharp, metallic jingle cuts through the heavy quiet, chasing the shadows into the corners. The children, at first startled, begin to laugh and clap along. You join in. You're clapping clumsy at first, then more confident. For the first time in weeks, the sounds in your home are entirely your own, a deliberate and joyful noise that leaves no room for whispers. You do not know if these small acts will be enough. The problem of the haunting feels immense, and your solutions, a small bowl of beer, a rattling piece of metal, feel pitifully small in comparison. But as you settle down for the night, the air in the house feels different. It is not just watchful anymore. It feels occupied. The space has been claimed. By offering sustenance and making a joyful noise, you have not just put a sign on the door. You have invited the guardian in to sit by your fire, and you hope, with every fiber of your being, that she has accepted. A week passes, and then another. The small rituals become the new rhythm of your household. Every dawn and every dusk, the sharp, cleansing jingle of the sea drum echoes through the rooms, a sound that has become as comforting as the children's laughter. Every evening, a small bowl of the day's best beer is placed on the hearth, a humble offering to the unseen protector you have invited into your home. The oppressive, watchful silence has receded, replaced by a fragile peace. The whispers have ceased, and you have not seen the creeping shadow again, but you still do not sleep deeply. You feel as though your unwanted guest has not fled, but is merely waiting, lurking just outside the fragile circle of light and sound you have created. Then, one afternoon, a new sound joins the household symphony. It is a faint, questioning mew from your courtyard doorway. You look up from the net you are mending. There, silhouetted against the blinding sunlight, is a tiny creature. It is a kitten, no more than a few months old, a scrawny thing of indeterminate color, all dusty fur, enormous ears, and eyes the color of pale gold. It stands trembling on the threshold, one paw raised, drawn by the smell of the fish you are cleaning for the evening meal. Your children see it at the same moment. They gasp with delight and rush towards it, their hands outstretched. The kitten, terrified, hisses a sound like tearing linen and darts back into the glare of the street. Your daughter's face crumples, tears welling up. Merit places a calming hand on her shoulder. Hush, little one, she says softly, her eyes fixed on the empty doorway. You cannot rush a gift from the gods. She takes a small piece of the fish you have just cleaned and places it on a flat stone just inside the doorway. Then she retreats, pulling the children back with her. We must let it choose, she whispers. You spend the rest of the afternoon in a state of quiet anticipation. You work, you talk, you prepare the meal, but part of your awareness is always on that doorway. Finally, as the shadows lengthen, the kitten returns. It creeps forward, hesitant, its skinny body low to the ground, it sniffs the air, its nose twitching. It circles the piece of fish twice before snatching it with a lightning-minus fast movement and retreating to a safe distance to devour it. This becomes the new pattern. Every day the kitten appears, you leave it a small scrap of food, and it vanishes. The ancient Egyptians had a unique relationship with the feline world. While cats were universally revered as symbols of Bastet, their initial entry into the home was likely for purely practical reasons. They were masterful hunters of the mice, rats, and snakes that threatened the precious grain stores, the lifeblood of every Egyptian household. They were, first and foremost, a form of pest control. It is this utility that many scholars believe was the foundation for their divine status. They weren't just cute, they were essential protectors of the food supply. After a few days of this cautious culture, the kitten grows bolder. One evening, after eating its offering, it does not leave. It slips quietly into the main room and, to your astonishment, begins to wash its face with a meticulous, practiced stare, as if it has lived here its whole life. It ignores you completely, a tiny island of calm self minus possession. The moment that changes, everything comes later that night. The children are asleep, and you and Merit are sharing a quiet cup of watered wine. The kitten, having explored every corner of the room, approaches the hearth. It carefully steps around the embers, its movements silent and fluid. It sniffs at the small bowl of offering beer, its nose wrinkling. Then, it notices the bowl of clean water that Merit had left beside it for her own use. The kitten dips its head and begins to drink, its tiny pink tongue lapping at the water. It is drinking from the altar. It is accepting the sacred space as its own. You look at Merit, and her eyes are shining. This is the sign she was waiting for. It is not just a stray cat anymore. It is an emissary, a physical manifestation of the protection you have been praying for. The debate among historians continues as to whether the average Egyptian truly kept cats as pets in the modern, affectionate sense, or if they were seen more as sacred, semi-minus wild cohabitants. The evidence points to a complex relationship that was part utility, part reverence, and undoubtedly part affection. The thousands upon thousands of cat mummies found buried in sacred sites attest to their religious importance. Later, as you lie on your mat, the kitten, full and feeling secure, leaps silently up and settles on the end of your sleeping mat. It curls into a tight ball and begins to purr. The sound is quiet, but it fills the entire room. It's a low, continuous, vibrating hum, a sound of pure, unadulterated contentment. It is the most peaceful sound you have ever heard. It is a living safe drum, a constant, gentle song that pushes back against the silence. For the first time in weeks, you feel the knot of fear in your stomach completely dissolve. The house is no longer just occupied by a goddess's spirit. It is now guarded by her living, breathing, purring child. And under the protection of that gentle sound, you finally, truly, sleep. The kitten, whom your daughter has named Mew, with the irrefutable logic of a child, has woven itself into the fabric of your family. It is a tiny, living embodiment of the peace you have craved. Its daytime hours are spent in a cycle of ferocious play, pouncing on stray threads, batting at your children's toes in profound, boneless sleep in the warmest patches of sunlight. But as night falls, a different side of the small creature emerges. It becomes a silent, watchful shadow, its golden eyes gleaming in the lamplight, seeming to see far more than you can. The purr that rumbles from its small body as it sleeps at the foot of your mat has become the sound of your own security. One evening, as you watch Mew intently tracking the movement of a moth near the ceiling, Merit's grandmother comes to visit. She carries with her a warm, fat loaf of bread as a gift, but you know she has truly come to inspect the state of your home's spiritual health. She sees the kitten, and a slow, wrinkled smile spreads across her face. Ugh, she says, a world of meaning in this single syllable. He has arrived. She refers to the kitten as he, though you have no idea of its true gender. To her, it is not an it is a presence. She settles herself by the hearth, accepting a cup of water. Mew, with the uncanny instinct of its kind, seems to recognize her as an ally and, after a moment's consideration, hops onto her lap, curls up, and begins to purr. The old woman strokes the dusty fur with one gnarled finger. He is small, she says, but he carries the legacy of the great cat of Heliopolis. You and Marit listen, hungry for the story. The old woman's voice drops into the slow cadence, the rhythm of a storyteller, a voice that has told this tale to generations of wide-minus-eyed children. She tells you of the great sun god, Ra, and his nightly journey through the duet, the dark, terrifying underworld. Every night, as Ra's solar bark sails through the 12 hours of darkness, it is attacked by his greatest enemy, a monstrous serpent of Pures named Apet. Apet's goal is to devour the sun god and plunge the world into eternal darkness, to unmake creation itself. Every night, the old woman says, her eyes distant, the gods on the bark must fight the serpent, but the final, most important battle happens just before dawn, at the foot of the sacred Ish tree, the tree of life, in the holy city of Heliopolis. It is at this critical moment, she explains, that Ra himself transforms. He takes on the form of a magnificent tomcat, the great cat, his fur striped like a tiger's, his eyes burning with the light of the sun. As Apet, the serpent of darkness, rears up to strike, the great cat pounces. With one paw, he holds the serpent's head down, and with the other, he wields a great, gleaming knife. In a single, swift movement, he cuts off the serpent's head, ensuring that the sun can be reborn, that the dawn can arrive, and that the world will not end. That, the old woman concludes, her voice firm, is the soul that lives in every cat, no matter how small. It is the spirit of the protector, the slayer of the serpents of darkness, both the great ones in the underworld and the small, whispering ones that try to nest in the corners of your home. You look at the tiny, sleeping kitten and her lap, and the story superimposes itself over him. You see not just a scrawny stray, but the heir to a cosmic battle, a miniature guardian against the forces of chaos. The image of a cat holding a knife to a serpent's throat is one of the most common and enduring vignettes in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. This story wasn't just a minor myth. It was a fundamental part of the funerary beliefs, a promise that the forces of order, in the form of this divine cat, would ultimately triumph over the chaos represented by the snake. The exact nature of this great cat is, of course, a matter of some debate among Egyptologists. Was it Ra himself, or a specific manifestation of Bastet's more aggressive side, or another god entirely? The texts are sometimes ambiguous, but for the average Egyptian, the message was clear and deeply comforting. The cat is a protector, a divine giant minus killer in a small, furry package. After the old woman leaves, you see Mayu's nightly patrols in a new light. When his ears twitch towards a dark corner, you imagine he is listening for the hiss of Apep's minions. When he pounces on a spider, you see the grey cat felling the monster of chaos. The games of the kitten have become rehearsals for a cosmic battle. The house is quiet now. The peace is real, anchored by the tiny, purring guardian who has claimed you as his own. You understand that the amulet, the beer, the sea strum, these were invitations. They set the stage. But it was the arrival of this small creature, this vessel of a great and ancient myth, that truly consecrated your home. The spirits of the dark cannot trouble a house that is guarded by the slayer of serpents himself. The presence of Mu has transformed your home. A fragile peace has solidified into a deep, comforting quiet. The kitten's nightly purr is a constant, gentle shield against the things that lurk in the dark. You are sleeping soundly for the first time in what feels like a lifetime. The joy has returned to your family, but with the fear gone, a new emotion begins to blossom in its place: gratitude. A profound sense of thankfulness to the goddess who answered your pleas. Your small household offerings of beer and rattling ceased from suddenly feel inadequate. You feel a growing desire to give proper thanks, to see the heart of her cult, to journey to the city that bore her name. One evening, as you sit with Merit, watching Mu playfully bat at a loose thread on a reed mat, you voice the thought that has been forming in your mind. Bastet, you say. The name itself feels luxurious on your tongue. Merit looks up, a slow smile spreading across her face. She knows what you are thinking. The festival is in the spring, she says, in the second month of the season of Shimu. It would be a long journey. It is a long journey, but it is one that hundreds of thousands of your countrymen make every year. The city of Bastet, which the Greeks call Bastet, is the center of her worship, her sacred seat on earth. It is located in the Nile Delta, the lush, green land to the north where the great river frays into a dozen smaller streams before meeting the great green sea. To travel there from your village in the south would mean a journey of many days by boat. It would mean saving what little extra grain and silver you have. It would be the greatest expense and the longest journey your family has ever undertaken. And yet, the idea takes root. The thought of it becomes a warm, glowing coal in your heart. Nereid's grandmother, when she hears of your ambition, fans the flame. She has been to the great festival twice in her long life, and her memories are sharp and vivid. You think this village is noisy? She scoffs, her eyes twinkling. You have never heard noise until you have been to Bastet during the festival. The entire river, from south to north, is filled with barges, and every barge is filled with people, singing and shouting and laughing. She describes the journey down the Nile, a floating procession of joy. The boats are crowded with families like yours, farmers and craftsmen, all heading to the same destination. The women, she says, line the decks, shaking their sea strums and singing songs to the goddess. They shout playful, taunting jokes at the people working in the fields along the river banks, and the villagers shout back, a current of good-natured revelry that flows along with the river itself. And the music, she says, her hands fluttering as if to capture a forgotten melody, pipes and drums on every boat, clapping, singing. The journey itself is a celebration. As she speaks, the city of Bastet formed in your mind, a vision of splendor. She tells you of the temple, a magnificent structure of red granite, set in a depression so that it seemed to nestle in the heart of the city that had grown up around it. It was surrounded by a sacred lake, shaded by groves of ancient trees where the holy cats, the living incarnations of the goddess, were cared for by her priests. And the smells, she closes her eyes, inhaling a memory. The whole city, she whispers, smells of perfume, of the finest oils and incense. Bastet is the lady of perfumes, and on her festival days, the very air becomes a tribute to her. The streets are filled with merchants, selling little clay flasks of scented oil and cones of incense that burn day and night. The Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt centuries before your time, but whose writings will one day provide a window into this world, described the festival at Bastet as the most popular and raucously celebrated in all of Egypt. He claimed that more wine was consumed at this single event than in the entire rest of the year. While he might have been prone to exaggeration, the core of his account supports what you are hearing. It was a massive, joyous, and perhaps slightly US pilgrimage. The nature of these great religious festivals is a topic of ongoing discussion. Were they purely solemn religious events, or more like a massive, country-wide party with a religious justification? The evidence suggests they were a powerful combination of both. They were a vital way for the populace to connect directly with their gods outside the formal, often inaccessible, rituals of the temple priests. They were an escape from the daily grind, a chance to travel, to train, to celebrate, and to reaffirm a shared cultural and religious identity. The vision of Bastet captivates you. It is a world away from your quiet, dusty village. The thought of the music, the crowds, the scent of incense, the sight of the great temple, it is almost too much to imagine. It feels like a dream, but it is a dream you are determined to make real. As you fall asleep that night, the gentle purr of Mew beside you is a quiet reminder of the goddess's favor. Your small, domestic gratitude must now find a larger voice. You will go to Bastet. You will see her city. You will give proper thanks. The dream of Bastet, the city of joy and perfume, has become your family's shared goal. It is a warm light on the horizon, a promise that sustains you through the mundane rhythm of your days. You work harder, setting aside every extra handful of grain, every small piece of silver earned from a good sale at the market. The journey is months away, but it lives in your home as a constant. Happy presence. Mew, now grown from a scrawny kitten into a sleeken, self-assured young cat, seems to be a living talisman of this good fortune. The house remains quiet. The shadows remain just shadows, and for a while, it seems as if your troubles are a thing of the distant past. But the entity that had troubled your home was not vanquished. It was merely patient. It had been cowed by the sudden arrival of the goddess's protection. But now, as you settle into a comfortable peace, it begins to test the boundaries once more. It does not dare to manifest physically, not with the amulet on the door and the purring guardian on the hearth. So it finds a new path, a more insidious one. It finds its way into your sleep. It begins with a subtle shift in the quality of your dreams. They become heavier, the colors muted. You find yourself dreaming of familiar places, the riverbank, the village market, but they are empty, silent, and shrouded in a grey, clinging mist. You walk through these dreamscapes with a growing sense of unease, a feeling that you are being watched by something just beyond the edges of the fog. You wake from these dreams not with a gasp of terror, but with a profound sense of exhaustion, as if you have been working all night instead of resting. Then, the dreams become more specific. One night, you dream you are in your own home, but it is wrong. The proportions are distorted, the doorways too tall, the shadows too deep. The air is thick and smells of stagnant water. You hear a sound, a faint, rhythmic dripping, but you cannot find its source. You wander through the silent rooms, your heart pounding with a nameless dread, searching for your family. But you are alone. The house is an empty, echoing shell, and the dripping sound grows louder and louder until it fills your head. Then you wake up with your heart hammering against your ribs. Merit is having them too. You see it in her eyes in the morning. She doesn't speak of it, perhaps for fear of giving it more power. But you know, she dreams of losing the children in a crowded market, of calling their names and having no sound come out of her throat. The peace you fought so hard to win is being eroded from within, poisoned at its source. The spirits of the night were a very real concern for the ancient Egyptians. They believed that sleep was a vulnerable state, a time when the soul, the Ba, might leave the body and travel. This made the sleeper susceptible to the influence of malevolent spirits or nightmares, which were often seen not as products of the mind, but as actual assaults. They had a host of spells and rituals designed to protect the sleeper, many of which are recorded in medical papier. These often involve reciting incantations or placing magical amulets, like the ankh or the eye of Horus, around the neck or near the bed. One night, the assault becomes direct. You dream you are standing on the bank of the Nile. The water is not the familiar, life-giving brown, but a thick, oily black. On the far side, shrouded in mist, you see the silhouette of a boat. It is the solar bark of Ra, but its light is feeble, a dying ember, and coiled around it, you see the immense, dark form of the serpent. Hey, you watch, helpless, as the serpent constricts, its victory seeming inevitable. But then you hear a hiss beside you. You look down, and there, at your feet, is a small, black snake, its head reared back, its tongue flicking. It speaks, but its voice is not a hiss. It is the whispering, sibilant sound you heard in the corner of your room so long ago. The great serpent will win. It whispers, the dawn will not come. There is no protector for you here. You wake up in a cold sweat, the serpent's whisper still echoing in your ears. The oil lamp has burned out. The room is in total darkness. You reach out, your hand trembling, needing the reassurance of Marit's presence beside you. At that moment, you feel a sudden, heavy weight land on your chest. You cry out, a strangled gasp, and your heart seizes with terror. And then, you hear a purr, a deep, rumbling, possessive purr, right under your chin. It's Mew. He has leapt from the foot of the mat and landed squarely on you, and now he is kneading your chest with his paws, pushing his head against your chin. The vibration of his purr powerful, living force. You open your eyes. In the deep gloom, you can just make out his form, and you can see his eyes. They are wide open, gleaming gold, and they are not looking at you. They are staring intently at the darkest corner of the room, the corner from which the whispers first came. He is utterly still, save for the deep rumble in his chest. He is a sentinel, a guardian standing watch over your soul. You lie there, your fear slowly receding, replaced by a wave of profound gratitude. The dream was a lie, an attack on your hope. The serpent did not win. The dawn is coming, and the protector is not some distant goddess in a faraway city. He is right here, the one, pouring weight on your chest, staring down the darkness on your behalf. The dream minus assault leaves you shaken, but also strangely resolute. The entity in your house has shown its hand. It is a creature of fear, a liar that whispers of darkness and defeat. But mere simple, solid presence on your chest, his defiant purr aimed at the shadows, was a powerful rebuttal. It was a declaration that your home was not, and would never be, undefended. The battle has moved from the physical realm to the spiritual, and you realize you cannot rely on Bastet as protection alone. You need more allies in this invisible war. It is Merit's grandmother, once again, who provides the answer. When you tell her of the nightmare in them, you stand against it. She nods slowly, a grim understanding in her eyes. Bastet is the shield of the house, the keeper of its joy, she says, but for the terrors of the night, for the demons that attack a man in his sleep, you sometimes need a different kind of guardian. You need a fighter. You need someone who can make the demons laugh, and then smash them with his club. She gets up and retrieves a small, squat object from a dusty shelf. She wipes it clean and hands it to you. It is a clay figurine, crudely shaped and sun minus bait. It depicts a dwarf, but what a strange dwarf he is. His legs are bowed, his body stout and muscular. He has a full, bushy beard and a wild mane of hair that frames his face. Most startlingly, his face is a grotesque mask, his tongue is stuck out, his eyes are wide and bulging, and his expression is a bizarre mix of ferocity and laughter. He wears a lion's skin on his back, and in one hand, he holds a club, in the other, a snake. This is Bees, the old woman says. He is ugly. Is he not? He is a clown, but the demons of the night are terrified of him. You stare at the figure. He is the opposite of the graceful, elegant Bastet in every way. He is squat, comical, and almost monstrous. Yet, there is an undeniable power in the little statue, a feeling of robust, cheerful, and slightly chaotic energy. The old woman explains that while Bastet guards the home, Bees is the specific guardian of the family within it, especially of mothers and children during the vulnerable time of childbirth, and of all people during the perilous journey of sleep. He is a dancer and a musician, she says. He frightens away the evil spirits with his terrible face and his loud music. He makes them laugh so hard they forget their evil intentions. He is a divine buffoon, and that is his power. This is the fascinating paradox of the god Bees. He was one of the most popular and beloved deities in all of ancient Egypt, a true god of the people, yet his origins are a mystery. Historians still debate where he came from. He has no grand temples, no formal priesthood in the same way as Ra or Osiris. His name doesn't appear in the grand creation myths. Some scholars believe he was an import, perhaps from Nubia to the south, or from a remote desert oasis, his foreigners being part of his strange power. His appearance is distinctly non-minus Egyptian, which only added to his mystique. He was a friendly outsider, a powerful, magical foreigner welcomed into the heart of the Egyptian home. The old woman tells you to place the figurine in your sleeping area, near the mat where you and your family lie. Let him be the last thing you see before you close your eyes, and the first thing you see when you wake, she instructs. He will stand guard over your dreams. He and the cat will hunt together. You take the squat, comical figurine home. Merit smiles when she sees it, a smile of recognition and relief. She places it on a small wooden shelf near your sleeping mats. The dwarf minus god's while, laughing, ferocious face now watches over you. It seems strange to invite such an ugly, almost demonic minus-looking creature into your home to fight demons. But you understand the logic. It's a form of sympathetic magic fighting fire with fire, chaos with a control, benevolent chaos. That night, as you lie down, the room feels doubly protected. You have the sleek, silent, watchful presence of Mew, the heir to the slayer of Apep, and you have the squad, grinning, while mine is side presence of bees, the divine bouncer, ready to dance and roar and fight off any nightmare that dares to approach. It's an unlikely pairing, the elegant lady of the house and the rowdy, comical guardian of the bedroom. Yet, it feels right. They are two different kinds of protection for two different kinds of threats. You fall asleep with the image of Bess Wildface in your mind, and for the first time, your dreams are clear and peaceful. You dream of nothing at all, just a long, deep, uninterrupted expanse of quiet darkness. The liars and whisperers have been driven from your sleeping mind. Your home and your soul are now guarded by both the lioness and the clown. The house is quiet. It has a deep, foundational quiet that you had almost forgotten was possible. The combination of your protectors is working. During the day, the small, elegant amulet of Bastet on the door seems to filter the very sunlight, making it feel cleaner, safer. At night, the squat, grinning face of bees watches over your sleeping family, a grotesque and cheerful gargoyle warding off the horrors of the dark, and through it all moves me, a sleek, living embodiment of both their powers. His silent patrols a constant reassurance, his purr the engine of tranquility. The nightmares have ceased, the whispers are gone, the creeping shadows have retreated into memory. For weeks, you allow yourself to sink into this newfound peace. It is a relief so profound it feels like a physical balm. The tension drains from your shoulders. The lines of worry on Merritt's face soften. The children's laughter is loud and uninhibited once more. You have won. You have defended your home and your family from the encroaching chaos. But victory, you learn, is not the same as peace. One evening, you and Merritt are sitting together on the roof, watching the first stars appear in the velvety sky. Mew is a warm weight on your lap. The air is still. The sounds of the village are gentle and distant. And yet, a sliver of the old unease remains. It's no longer a fear, but a question. It is gone, you say, more to convince yourself than Merritt. She looks at you, her expression thoughtful. It is hiding, she replies, her voice soft but firm. We have barred the door and posted guards, but the thief still waits outside the walls. What happens if our guards fall asleep? Her words strike a deep chord of truth. Your defenses are strong, but they are reactive. They are shields. They do not attack. The entity that plagued you was ancient and patient. It had receded. But what was to stop it from testing your defenses again in a year or 10? What if Mew grew old and slow? What if the bees figurine cracked? Your peace feels conditional, a temporary truce rather than a permanent treaty. It is in that moment that the dream of Bastet transforms into a necessity. It is no longer a journey of gratitude. It becomes a quest for a permanent solution. You need more than a shield. You need your home to be scoured, to be blessed so thoroughly that it becomes anathema to the spirits of chaos. You need to go to the source of the power, to the heart of the goddess herself, and bring back a piece of that holiness, a light so bright it will burn away the last lingering trace of the shadow. We will go, you say, and this time, the words have a new weight. They are not an aspiration. They revel. At the festival of Shimu, we will go. Merritt nods, her eyes filled with a new determination. It will be difficult. The journey will cost more than we have. And so, the great decision is made, not with a burst of excitement, but with a quiet, sober resolve. The pilgrimage is now the most important project of your lives. Every action becomes oriented towards this single goal. You begin to work with a fervor you haven't felt since you were a young man trying to build this very house. Every pot you shape, every basket you weave, is not just for the market. It is a brick in the road to Bastet. Merritt's loom silacs late into the evening, the threads weaving together not just cloth, but the very fabric of your pilgrimage. Why did so many thousands of Egyptians undertake these long, expensive, and sometimes dangerous journeys? Was it, as the Greek historians cheekily suggested, primarily for the wine and revelry, or was it driven by something deeper? Academics continue to debate the balance between communal celebration and personal crisis as the main impetus for these mass religious events. The truth, as you are now living it, is that they were inextricably linked. The promise of the festival's joy was the spoonful of honey that made the bitter medicine of your personal quest go down. You were seeking a miracle, and you were willing to travel to the heart of a nation-wide party to find it. You began to save, putting aside scraps of silver in a small clay pot hidden beneath the floor stone. You deny yourself small luxuries, a sweeter date, a stronger beer. The children, understanding that something important is happening, help in their own small ways, gathering valuable dry reeds for your basket minus, making with a new seriousness. Your family is no longer just a group of individuals living together. You are a team, united in a single, sacred purpose. Your gaze and your heart now turn north, following the inexorable flow of the great river that will be your road to the goddess. The season of Shimo, the season of harvest, finally arrives, bringing with it a dry, golden heat and the frenetic energy of reaping and threshing. For you, it brings something more the beginning of your journey. You have worked and saved for months. Your hidden clay pot holds just enough silver to pay for passage in simple offerings. Your storeroom contains bags of dried fish, dates, and hard, flatbread to sustain you. The day you pack your few belongings into woven baskets, the air in your home is thick with a nervous, electric excitement. Merritt's grandmother comes to see you off. She presses a small bag of dried chimolime into Merritt's hand for calming the stomach underwater. She says, a practical blessing. She gives Mew a long, final scratch behind the ears, whispering something into his fur that you cannot hear. Mew will not be making the journey. A trusted neighbor has agreed to look after him, a task they accept with solemn reverence. Leaving him feels like leaving a piece of your soul behind. But you know your quest is for his sake as much as anyone's. You walk as a family down to the bustling riverbank, a place you have seen every day of your life, but which today feels like the edge of the known world. There, moored amongst the familiar fishing skiffs and small ferry boats, is a sight you have only seen from a distance. A large, wooden cargo barge, its single, great sail furled, its deck already crowded with other families. This will be your home for the next several days. Finding passage was not easy. These barges are primarily for transporting grain or stone, no people, but during the great festival seasons, every boat owner with an empty deck becomes a ferryman. The price is high, the comfort minimal, but the destination is everything. You hand over a significant portion of your hard -1 silver to the gruff, sun-weathered captain, and he gestures for you to find a space on the packed deck. You carve out a small territory for your family amidst a chaotic landscape of baskets, vandals, and other pilgrims. The deck is a microcosm of Egypt. There are farmers from the south, their skin dark as the fertile earth, craftsmen like yourself, even a few lower-ranking scribes or soldiers, all social strata dissolving in the shared purpose of the journey. The air is a cacophony of sounds, children shouting, men arguing good-naturedly, women exchanging gossip and travel advice. Then, with a great groan of wood and a series of shouted commands from the captain, the barge is pushed away from the bank. The massive sail is unfurled, and it catches the steady north-blowing wind with a satisfying warmth. The boat begins to move. Your village, the only home you have ever known, begins to shrink behind you. You watch your small mud-brick house recede until it's indistinguishable from the others, and a pang of homesickness, sharp and unexpected, passes you. But the mood on the boat is infectious. As you glide down the majestic, life-giving artery of the Nile, the world unfolds like a painted scroll. The landscape is a vibrant green, a narrow, impossibly fertile ribbon flanked by the vast, empty deserts of red land on either side. You pass villages, temples, and the distant, imposing shapes of pyramids, monuments to kings who lived and died 1,000 years before you were born. The sense of history is overwhelming, a physical presence on the water. The journey confirms everything Merritt's grandmother told you. The river is alive with other boats, all heading north, all filled with singing, clapping pilgrims. A barge full of women from a town known for its weavers passes you, and they lift their sea strongs, their combined jingling a great, shimmering wave of sound across the water. Your wife, Merit, laughs and lifts her own, joining the chorus. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. Of course, the journey is not all comfort. The sun beats down relentlessly during the day, and you huddle under a small canvas awning you bartered for with a loaf of bread. The nights are surprisingly cold, and you sleep cramped together for warmth. The food is monotonous, and the constant proximity to so many strangers is both exciting and draining. There's a constant debate among scholars about the realities of such travel for the common Egyptian. The romantic image of a joyous procession is likely only part of the story. Such journeys would have been fraught with potential dangers, sudden squalls, sunburns, illness, or even predatory river pirates in more unsettled time. The choice to embark on such a trip was an act of profound faith, a demonstration that the spiritual reward was worth the very real physical risks. On the third day, a group of men on your barge begin singing a well-minus known hymn to Bastet, their voices rough but heartfelt. Soon, others join in, a chorus of dozens of voices rising over the sound of the wind and water. You listen to the words, praising her as the Lady of the East, the one who brings the gentle light of dawn, the protector from plague and darkness. You sing along, your own voice joining the swell. You are no longer just a man on a boat. You are a pilgrim. You are part of a great, flowing current of humanity, carried on the back of the sacred river, towards the city of a goddess. After a journey that seems to have lasted both a lifetime and no time at all, you begin to feel a change in the air. The river, which has been your whole world, widens, and the traffic of boats becomes a dense, jostling throng. The character of the land changes too, becoming flatter, greener, more intensely cultivated. You are entering the delta, the fertile triangle where the Nile prepares to meet the sea. The excitement on your barge, which had settled into a steady hum, now rises to a fever pitch. People point, shouting and chattering, and then you see it. At first, it is just a glimmer on the horizon, but as your boat rounds a wide bend in the river, the city of Bastet reveals itself. It is not a city of humble mud-minus brick like your own. It is a metropolis, a sprawling expanse of whitewashed buildings, towering temple pylons, and lush, green gardens, all shimmering in the heat. A Greek canal, wide as a river itself, diverts from the Nile and encircles the city, and it is choked with thousands of boats, all trying to find a place to moor. The air, even from this distance, carries a new scent not of river mud, but of wood smoke, roasting meat, and a faint, sweet perfume. The noise is the first thing that truly overwhelmed you. It is a solid wall of sound, the combined roar of hundreds of thousands of people. It is the sound of music from 1,000 flutes and drums, the rhythmic clash of countless sea drums, the shouting of vendors, the laughter of revelers, the bleating of sacrificial animals. It is the sound of a city given over entirely to joy and chaos. Your captain, the master of his craft, navigates the chaos with a series of shouted commands and impressive profanity, nudging his heavy barge into a small space along a crowded quay. The sun breaking is a frantic, dizzying experience. You cling to your children's hands, Merit clutches your own, and you move as a single, terrified unit into the surging river of humanity that floods the streets. The city is a century old. The streets are impossibly crowded, a chaotic press of bodies. Everywhere you look, there is something to see. Acrobats and dancers perform in any open space. Merchants have set up stalls selling everything from cheap clay amulets of Bastet to expensive, shining bronze statuettes. The smell of food is everywhere, sizzling fish, roasting fowl, and stalls selling pyramids of sweet, sticky honey minus cakes. And through it all, the scent of perfume and incense is a constant, heady presence. You see people from every corner of the known world, Nubians from the south with their dark skin and colorful beads, pale minus-faced traders from the Greek islands, desert nomads with their weathered faces and keen eyes. They have all been drawn here by the goddess and the promise of her festival. The famous account of Herodotus, while perhaps embellishing the numbers, vividly describes the scene. He speaks of men and women playing pipes, of others singing and clapping, and of an immense consumption of wine. He notes, with a hint of scandalized fascination, that the women on the boats would lift their robes in playful taunts to those on shore. Your experience confirms the spirit, if not every detail, of his report. It is a time when the normal, strict social rules are relaxed, a period of sanctioned chaos and joyful excess. Why would a religious festival involve such wild, seemingly profane behavior? Many scholars believe this ecstatic form of worship was a way to honor the goddess by embodying her nature. Bastet was the goddess of joy, music, dance, and pleasure. To celebrate her was to indulge in these things, to create a massive outpouring of the very joyful energy she represented. The revelry was not an insult to the divine, it was the worship itself. You and your family are swept along by the crowd, your personal quest momentarily forgotten in the sheer, overwhelming spectacle of it all. You buy your children honey minus cakes, their faces becoming sticky masks of delight. You watch a troupe of dancers, their bodies moving with a fluid grace that is both mesmerizing and beautiful. You are just one family in a crowd of hundreds of thousands, a single drop in an ocean of celebration. But your purpose reasserts itself. Through a gap in the buildings, you catch your first glimpse of the temple itself. It is just as Merritt's grandmother described it, a magnificent edifice of polished red granite, its towering walls covered in carved images of gods and pharaohs. It seems to float in the center of the city, surrounded by its shimmering sacred lake. A wide, paved avenue, lined with statues of sphinxes, leads to the main gate. The sight silences the noise in your head. The party in the streets is for the people, but the temple is for her. That is your destination. That is where you will deliver your prayer and find the blessing you have traveled so far to seek. The path to the temple is a slow, shuffling pilgrimage in itself. The wide, sphinx-lined avenue is packed shoulder to shoulder with a river of humanity flowing towards the great red granite pylons that form the temple's entrance. The air here is different, thicker with the scent of expensive incense burning in large bronze braziers. The raucous music of the city streets gives way to the more solemn, resonant chanting of the temple priests, a deep hum that seems to vibrate in your very bones. You hold your children close, their eyes wide with awe at the scale of everything around them. The temple walls tower over you, covered in hieroglyphs and images so immense they seem to have been carved by giants. You see the pharaoh making offerings to the gods. Then you see her, Bastet, in her many forms. Here, she is depicted as a graceful woman with the head of a cat, holding a sea drum in one hand and a sacred aegis, a type of ceremonial shield or collar in the other. In another carving, she is a fierce lioness, crouched and ready to spring. The two sides of her nature, the gentle and the terrible, are displayed for all to see. As you draw nearer to the main gate, you see the temple merchants. These are not the boisterous street vendors, but more sober merchants selling official temple approved offerings. There are garlands of lotus flowers, small cakes made in the shape of cats, and flasks of perfumed oil. And then you see what you have come for. On a series of wooden tables are hundreds upon hundreds of bronze statuettes. They range in size from tiny figures no bigger than your finger to impressive statues a full arm's length high. They all depict Bastet in her glass-exceeded cat form, the same elegant, upright posture as the faience amulet that still hangs in your home, and the same alert watchfulness you see every day in Mew. This is the offering of a common man, a durable, beautiful gift that will sit in the temple for eternity, a permanent vessel for your prayer. You approach one of the vendors, your heart pounding. This is the culmination of your saving, the focus of your quest. The bronze figures gleam in the sun. They are not cheap. The price for even a small one is more silver than you have ever held in your hand at one time. You carefully untie the small leather pouch you have kept hidden and pour your savings onto the vendor's table. The silver coins, so precious to you, look like a pitifully small mound. The vendor, a man with shrewd, tired eyes, counts the coins. He looks at you, at your simple, dusty clothes and your anxious family, and then he selects a statue. It is a small one, perhaps the height of your hand. but it is beautifully cast. The lines are clean, the posture perfect. The expression on the cat's face a serene mixture of power and calm. He wraps it carefully in a piece of clean linen and hands it to you. The bronze is heavy, solid, and cool to the touch. It feels like the most important thing you have ever held. The practice of offering votive statues was a central part of Egyptian worship. People would purchase these effigies to leave in the temple as a kind of permanent representative of themselves, a way to remain in the presence of the god long after they had returned home. They were a physical embodiment of a prayer. The enormous number of these statues, particularly of Bastet, found at sites like Bastet, attests to the incredible popularity of this practice. But what exactly was the worshipper's intent? Was the statue a gift to the goddess, a thank minus you for a prayer answered? Or was it a petition, an offering made in the hope of future favor? Or was it, as some scholars argue, a form of magical substitution? The bronze cat acting as a vessel that could absorb the goddess's divine energy and radiate it back towards the offerer and their family, wherever they may be. The truth is likely a combination of all three. For you, holding this statue, it is everything at once: a thank you for the peace she has already brought, a prayer for that peace to be made permanent, and a magical anchor that will tie your home in a distant village directly to this sacred spot. Clutching the linen minus wrapped bronze, you finally pass through the great pylons and into the temple courtyard. The space is vast, open to the sky, and filled with a reverent hush that stands in stark contrast to the chaos outside. Priests in clean white linen robes move with a silent purpose. In the center of the courtyard, before the entrance to the inner sanctuary where only the highest priests may go, is a great altar, piled high with offerings. You wait your turn in a long, slow minus moving line. When you finally reach the front, you unwrap your statue. You hold it for a moment, thinking of your small mud minus brick house, of the creeping shadow, of me as defiant pearl. You channel all your hope, your fear, and your gratitude into this single, heavy object. A priest takes it from you and places it carefully amongst the hundreds of others at the foot of the altar. Your small bronze cat joins a silent, gleaming army of its brethren. A chorus of prayers made solid. You have done it. You have delivered your message. You watch the statue for a moment longer, a small, dark shape amidst a sea of offerings. For merit, gently takes your arm and leads you away. You have given your gift. No, you can only hope that the goddess has received it. You leave the main temple courtyard feeling lighter, as if you've set down a heavy burden you didn't even realize you were carrying. Your offering has been made. Your prayer has been delivered. The rest is in the hands of the goddess. The spiritual climax of your journey is over, and now you have a little time to simply be a pilgrim in a holy city before you must think of the long journey home. Merit suggests you follow the path that circles the great temple enclosure. The air is cooler here, shaded by the high walls on one side and a grove of ancient, spreading sycamore trees on the other. It is quieter, a welcome respite from the overwhelming crowds. It is here, in the relative calm, that you see them. Cats, they are everywhere, not scrawny, dusty strays like your mew was, but sweet, well minus fed, glossy minus coated creatures. They lounge on the warm stones of the temple wall. They nap in the shade of the great trees. They weave languidly through the legs of the pilgrim. They are utterly unafraid, moving with the serene entitlement of creatures who know they are masters of this domain. These are the sacred temple cats, the living, breathing incarnations of Bastet, cared for by her priests. To harm one, even by accident, is a crime punishable by death. Your children stare, mesmerized. They have never seen so many cats in one place. You watch a priest, a young man in a clean white robe, place a series of shallow bowls filled with milk and chopped fish along the path. The cats gather, eating with a delicate, unhurried grace. It is a scene of perfect peace. As you wander further along the path, you notice a strange, steady stream of people disappearing down a narrow flight of stone stairs that leads below ground. Their faces are solemn, and many of them carry small, linen minus wrapped bundles. Curious, you follow the flow of the crowd. The stairs are steep and dark, and the air grows cool and smells of dry earth and something else, a faint, musty, animal scent. The stairway opens into a vast, man-made cavern, a subterranean gallery lit by flickering oil lamps. The sheer scale of it takes your breath away. Long, dark tunnels branch off in every direction, and lining the walls of these tunnels, from floor to ceiling, are niches, and in every single niche is a small, linen-minus wrapped bundle. There are thousands of them, tens of thousands. They are cat mummies. You have stumbled upon the catacombs of the sacred animals. This is where the temple cats, upon their death, were brought to be mummified with the same care and ritual as a human being. They were wrapped in fine linen, sometimes with intricate geometric patterns, and often a small, painted mask was placed over the face. They were then interred here, in this vast, silent, underground city of the dead, to continue their journey in the afterlife. But it is not just the temple cats. You watch as a family, much like your own, approaches a priest who stands at the entrance to one of the tunnels. They hand him their own small, linen-minus wrapped bundle, along with a few coins. The priest takes the bundle, says a quiet prayer, and places it reverently into an empty niche. You realize that pilgrims from all over Egypt brought their own beloved cats here after they die, paying the temple priest to have them mummified and buried in this holy ground, to ensure their eternal peace in the care of the goddess. The discovery of these vast animal necropolises in the 19th and 20th centuries was a source of utter astonishment and some horror to the modern world. At sites like Bastet and Sokava, millions of mummified animals were found, not just cats, but ibises, crocodiles, and dogs, each associated with their own particular deity. The scale of the practice is almost impossible to comprehend. One shipment from the 1882 sent an estimated 180 Zaro cat mummies from Egypt to England to be ground down and used as agricultural fertilizer, a shocking end to what was once a sacred act of devotion. Why did the Egyptians do this? Scholarly debate is intense. Was it a simple expression of love for a deceased pet? Was it an act of piety, offering a mummified animal to the god as a votive gift, similar to your bronze statue? Or was it, as some recent studies suggest, a massive, commercialized industry, with priests breeding thousands of animals specifically to be killed, mummified, and sold to pilgrims as offerings? The evidence suggests a complex mixture of all of these motives. For some, it was a beloved companion. For others, it was a sacred transaction. You stand in the flickering lamplight of the catacomb, surrounded by the silent, sleeping army of cats. The sheer, overwhelming piety of it all is staggering. The love and reverence required to build this place, to perform these countless rituals, is a testament to the depth of the people's faith. You think at your own meal, safe at home. The thought of him ever leaving your life is a sharp pain in your heart. Looking at these linen-minus wrapped forms, you understand the impulse. You understand the desperate need to ensure that a creature you love, a creature you believe holds a spark of the divine, is cared for forever. You climb back up the stairs, blinking as you emerge into the warm sunlight. The world seems different now. You've seen the joyous, chaotic heart of the festival, the solemn piety of the temple, and now, the profound, silent devotion of the catacombs. You have seen the full circle of the goddess's worship, from the vibrant life she inspires to the eternal rest she promises. Your journey is complete. The journey home is a mirror image of the journey out. Yet everything is different. The barge is just as crowded. The sun is hot. The food is monotonous. But you are no longer a pilgrim on a quest. You are a traveler returning from a strange and holy land. The frantic energy of the festival has been replaced by a deep, bone-minus weary sense of completion. You find a space on the deck and settle in for the long, slow trip upstream. Now you are moving against the current, and the journey is slower, more deliberate. The boat is propelled not by the wind, but by a team of men who walk along a riverbank, hauling the heavy barge with thick ropes of papias fiber. Their rhythmic chanting is a constant, hypnotic backdrop to your days. The mood on the boat is more subdued. The wild revelry is over. People are tired, their voices hoarse from singing, their pouches empty of silver, They are reflective, digesting the experiences of the past few days. You see your own feelings mirrored in the faces around your quiet satisfaction, a sense of a sacred duty fulfilled. Your children, who were a bundle of nervous energy on the way to Bastet, are now calm and content. They sit for hours, watching the familiar landscape of the Nile slide by. They have seen the big city, and now the sight of a simple fishing skiff or a grove of familiar palm trees is a deep comfort. They are ready for home. You spend much of the journey in quiet conversation with Merit. You speak of the temple, of the incredible crush of the crowds, of the unnerving, silent city of the dead cats. You try to make sense of it all. Did we do the right thing? You ask her one evening, as the boat is moored for the night and the stars blaze with an impossible brightness in the desert sky. We made our offering, she replies, her voice full of a simple, unshakable certainty. We showed her our hearts. The rest is not our concern. This perspective, this surrender to the will of the divine after having done one's part, is a cornerstone of the ancient Egyptian worldview. They believed in Hikar, in the power of magic and ritual to influence the world, but they also believed that the ultimate power rested with the gods. You perform the ritual, you say the prayer, you make the offering, and then you must trust. It is a philosophy that fosters a deep, resilient patience. The journey forces you to be patient. Day after day, you watch the riverbanks, the fields, the villages. You see the eternal, unchanging rhythm of Egyptian life. You see men guiding wooden plows pulled by oxen, their movements the same as their ancestors 1,000 years ago. You see women washing clothes at the river's edge, their chatter carrying across the water. It is a slow, meditative return to the world you know, and with every mile you travel south, the memory of the festival's chaotic energy fades, replaced by a longing for the simple, predictable quiet of your own home. During the journey, you unwrap the one small souvenir you purchased. It is not a grand statue or a flask of expensive perfume. It is a simple clay sea strum, smaller and more crudely made than Merit's bronze one, but painted with the cheerful image of a seated cat. You bought it for your daughter. She shakes it, and the clatter of the clay discs is a soft, earthy sound, a gentle echo of the festival's roar. There is a subtle debate among historians about the economic impact of these great festivals. While they were religious events, they were also massive economic engines. The sheer amount of trade in transport, food, lodging, and religious paraphernalia like your little sea strum would have been staggering. For many, the pilgrimage was not just a spiritual journey, but an economic opportunity. The captain of your barge, the vendors in the city, their livelihoods depended on this annual explosion of faith and commerce. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, you see a familiar bend in the river, a familiar line of palm trees. Your village comes into view. A cry of recognition and relief goes up from the handful of other families from your area who are also on the boat. The barge pulls into the quay, and the moment your feet touch the solid ground of home, a profound sense of rightness settles over you. You walk the dusty path to your house, your children running ahead. As you approach your own doorway, the door swings open. Your neighbor stands there, smiling, and at her feet, tail held high in a question mark of greeting. Ismail, he takes one look at you, lets out aloud, demanding meow, and trots directly towards you, rubbing against your legs as if you have been gone for only an hour. You scoop him up. He is heavier than you remember. Sleek and well -scared -4. He buries his head under your chin and begins to purr, a deep, rumbling welcome that speaks of home more profoundly than any words. You hold him close, breathing in his familiar, dusty, animal scent. Your journey is over. You are home. You step across your own threshold, and the familiar air of your home envelops you like a warm embrace. It smells of baked bread, of the dry reeds of your baskets, of the faint, clean scent of the river. But something is missing, the subtle, underlying tension, the feeling of a cold spot just at the edge of your senses. It's gone. Utterly, the house feels clean. It is a quiet that is not empty, but full of peace. The first few days back are a slow, gentle ray minus acclamation. You unpack your baskets, You return to the rhythm of your work. You fall back into the life you had temporarily left behind. The amulet of Bastet still hangs by the door. The grinning figurine of bees still watches over your sleeping mats. But their role feels different now. They are no longer desperate shields against an active threat. They feel more like honored monuments, reminders of a battle that has been won. The true change is in Mew. Before you left, he was a guardian, a watchful sentinel. Now, he seems to be something more. He has always been affectionate on his own terms, but now his presence becomes more deliberate, more focused. He seems to understand, on some deep, instinctual level, that your journey was on his behalf, and he is now repaying the honor. You begin to notice him performing what almost seem like small, nightly rituals. As dusk settles and Merit lights the first oil lamp, Mew will hop up onto the chest where you store your linens. He will sit there, perfectly still, for a long time, his tail wrapped neatly around his paws. He is not asleep. His golden eyes are open, slowly scanning the room from this high vantage point. He is like a priest surveying his temple, an overlord inspecting his domain. He seems to be watching the shadows themselves, ensuring they stay in their proper places. Once his survey is complete, he will perform a slow, deliberate patrol of the entire house. He moves with a silent, flowing grace, his paws making no sound on the hard minus-packed earth floor. He will sniff at the base of the grain jars, brush his cheek against the legs of the lull, and peer into the dark, empty space of the hearth, now cool for the night. It is a thorough, methodical inspection. It is not the random wandering of a simple animal. It feels like a conscious act of warding, of reaffirming the boundaries of his territory and yours. This idea of the cat as a magical protector is deeply woven into Egyptian thought. While some of the stories are grand and cosmic, like the great cat of Heliopolis, there are also humbler, more domestic beliefs. There is evidence from magical texts and spells that a cat's whiskers, or the milk from a cat that had birth to litter, were considered powerful ingredients in protective potions and amulets. The physical parts of the cat were believed to hold a portion of its divine, protective power. One night, you were awoken by a sound. It is not the whisper of a spirit, but a low, guttural growl, a sound you have never heard me make before. You sit up, your heart instantly pounding with a trace of the old fear. The room is dull, but your eyes have adjusted enough to see me. He is standing in the center of the room, his back arched, the fur along his spine standing on end. He is staring intently at the corner of the room that was always the source of the trouble, the place where you first saw the shadow detach itself from the wall. He lets out another low growl, a sound of pure, vibrating menace that seems impossibly large for such a small creature. He takes a slow, deliberate step towards the corner, then another. He is not afraid. He is challenging whatever might be there. He is the aggressor. He stands there for a full minute, a small, black silhouette of fury aimed at an enemy you cannot see. Then, as if satisfied that his challenge has been met and his opponent has fled, he relaxes, his fur flattened. He gives a final, dismissive sniff at the corner, then turns, trots back to your sleeping mat, curls up in his usual spot, and begins to purr as if nothing has happened. You lie back down, your fear replaced by a profound sense of awe. You did not just bring back a blessing from Bastet. You brought back an authority. The holiness of the temple, the power of your offering, seems to have flowed back through you and settled into your home, consecrating it. And Mew, as the living vessel of the goddess, has absorbed this new power. He is no longer just a god. He is the master of the space. He is the lion in the house, and he will not tolerate any trespassers, seen or unseen. The spirits of chaos no longer have a foothold here. They cannot nest where a lion walks. The memory of MIU stand minus off with the unseen enemy in the corner becomes a new legend in your family. It is a story you will tell your grandchildren, a tale of the small cat with the heart of a lion. The house is now undeniably, unshakably yours. The peace is no longer fragile. It is a solid, foundational presence. But you have learned that a hard lesson. Peace is not a thing you achieve, but a thing you must maintain. The shields are in place. The guardian is vigilant, but a fortress must still be tended. Merritt's grandmother, upon hearing the story of Miu's challenge, feels satisfied, knowing that the warrior has claimed his ground. She says, "Now you must make the ground itself holy. The air must be filled with the scent of the goddess, so that no foul thing will ever wish to breathe it." She teaches you the final layer of your home's spiritual defense, the art of incense. You have seen incense burned in the temple at Bastet, great clouds of it billowing from bronze censers. You have smelled it on the city streets, but you had always thought of it as a luxury of priests and kings, not something for a simple home. The old woman corrects this notion. The gods breathe incense, she says simply. It is their native air. To burn it is to invite them into a space they find pleasing. She brings you the ingredients. They are not the rare and fabulously expensive resins like myrrh or frankincense that were used in the Greek temples. Those were imported from the distant lands of Punt or the Arabian kingdoms, and were worth more than your entire house. The incense of the home is simpler, made from the fragrant materials of your own land. The primary ingredient is a handful of dried, golden minus brown pellets of resin from a local acacia tree. This is gum arabic, the same substance used as a binder for the finest pigments on inks. It is the body of the incense, providing a slow, steady burn. To this, she adds other things. Darrow crush, dried juniper berries, which release a sharp, clean, pine-minus-like scent. There is a spoonful of honey, which will caramelize when heated, adding a note of sweetness to counteract the bitterness of the burning resin. And finally, she adds a pinch of something you don't recognize, a fine, reddish powder. Cinnamon, she says, from a trader. A small extravagance. It is another scent of a faraway land, a hint of the exotic to please the goddess. The process of making the incense cones, or KEPY, is a skill in itself. You grind the dry ingredients together in a stone mortar until they are a fine, uniform powder. Then, you mix in the honey and a small amount of water to create a stiff, fragrant dough. You roll this dough between your palms into small, cone-shaped pellets, which are then left to dry in the sun for several days until they are hard as stone. The question of what, precisely, was an ancient Egyptian incense is a field of vibrant and ongoing research. Temple walls are inscribed with detailed recipes for the most sacred mixtures, listing ingredients and complex preparation steps. But the everyday incense of the common people is less understood. Archaeological finds of incense burners in homes often contain the residue of local resins and woods, but also traces of imported spices, suggesting that even families of modest means would occasionally splurge on a pinch of something special for their gods. That evening, you perform the new ritual. You take a small, flat pottery sherd and place a single, glowing coal from the hearth onto it. Then, you place one of the small, hard cones of incense you made onto the coal. It begins to smoke immediately. Not a thick, choking smoke, but a thin, almost invisible plume of fragrant vapor that rises in a straight line towards the roof. The scent that fills the room is wonderful. It is a complex, layered perfume. The sure, clean scent of the juniper cuts through the sweet, warm smell of the honey and the spicy, exotic note of the cinnamon, all grounded by the earthy, resinous space of the acacia gum. It is a scent that is simultaneously clean, sweet, and holy. It smells like peace. You carry the smoldering sherd through the house, wafting the fragrant smoke into every corner. You wave it before the amulet on the door, before the statue of bees. You let it drift over your sleeping children. You are not just enhancing the room. You are consecrating it. You are actively changing the quality of the air, making it pleasing to the divine and, by extension, repellent to the profane. You are fumigating your home against the lingering spirits of chaos. As you lie down to sleep, the gentle, fragrant smoke still hangs in the air. It is a final, protective blanket. The house is shielded by sight, by sound, by a living guardian. And now, by scent, every one of your senses is now being used to affirm the sanctity of your home. The spirits of the dark have no way in. There is no crack for a whisper to slide through, no shadow for them to hide in, no silence for them to fill. The very air is now a prayer. The sweet, Holy scent of your home-made KEPY incense has become the new signature of your home. The small ritual of burning it each evening is a calming, centering act, a final lock on the door against the darkness. The weeks turn into months. The season of harvest gives way to the season of inundation, when the Nile swells and spills over its banks, replenishing the land. It is a time of waiting, of mending tools and telling stories. And in your small, safe, fragrant house, there is only peace. The change is not just an absence of fear. It is a presence of joy. The harmony, made, that was so violently disrupted has returned, deeper and more resilient than before. You see it in the small moments that make up a life. You see it in your children. They play without a shadow of fear. Their games spill out from the courtyard into every corner of the house. They build little houses of mud and sticks right in the corner that once held such terror for you. And their innocent laughter is a more powerful consecration than any ritual. Your daughter, when she misplaces her wooden hippo toy, no longer wails with a primal fear of loss. She simply calls from you, who, with an uncanny sense of purpose, will often go directly to the forgotten toy and sit beside it until she finds it. You see it in Marat. The tense, watchful lines around her eyes have vanished completely. She sings as she works, her voice blending with the rhythmic clack of her loom. She moves through the house with a relaxed, confident grace. One evening, you watch as she grinds wheat, and muses nearby, patiently watching a mouse mine a hole in the wall. Merit pauses, dips her finger in a bowl of water, and lets the cat lick the moisture from her hand. It is a small, silent exchange of trust and affection, a portrait of domestic harmony. You feel the change in yourself most profoundly. The heavy weight of constant vigilance has lifted from your shoulders. You sleep deeply every night, your dreams untroubled. You wake refreshed, ready for the day's work. The simple act of sitting on your own roof in the evening, watching the sunset, is no longer an act of defiance against a gathering darkness, but the simple, pure pleasure. Your work flourishes, your hands are steady, your eye is clear, your pottery is better formed, your baskets more tightly woven. You are not distracted by fear. Your entire being is focused, present, and at peace. This concept of Mayat was not just a grand, abstract, cosmic principle for the Egyptians. It was meant to be lived out in the smallest details of daily life. A well-managed, ordered home, a loving family, honest work, and a right relationship with the gods. This was Mayat in practice. When it was disrupted, the world fell into Isfet, into chaos. Your long struggle has been a journey back from Isfet to Mayat. The final, irrefutable proof of the change comes one stormy night. A rare winter rain lashes the village, and a strong wind howls around the corners of your house. It is a wind that moans and whispers, the sound that, a year ago, would have sent a spear of ice through your heart. It sounds exactly like the first whispers you ever heard. You're lying on your mat, and you tense instinctively, a ghost of the old fear stirring. You wait for the feeling of a malevolent presence, for the chill to enter the room, but there is nothing. The wind howls, but it is just wind. It is a sound outside your walls, unable to penetrate the thick, incense minus scented peace within. Mio, asleep at the foot of your mat, does not even twitch and hear the sound. He is utterly untroubled. The wind that sounds like a spirit's whisper is of no concern to him. He knows the difference. In that moment, you know with absolute certainty that you are finally, completely safe. The whispers are gone because you have replaced them with your own sounds, with the jingle of the sea strum, the laughter of your children, the steady purr of a cat. The creeping shadows are gone because you have filled the house with light and with a guardian who sees in the dark. The oppressive silence is gone because you have filled the air with perfume and with love. There was no great, dramatic battle, no divine confrontation. The victory was quiet, incremental, undomestic. You did not banish the darkness. You simply made your home so full of light and life and joy that the darkness had no place to stay. It starved, it faded. It was not defeated. It was simply displaced. Harmony, you realize, is not a static state. It is a presence, an active force, and you have learned it, through much trial and error, how to cultivate it, how to nurture it, and how to make it strong enough to stand against any storm. Years have passed. Your children are growing tall. Their laughter has filled every corner of the house, erasing the last memory of the silence that once lived there. The little faience amulet by the door is smooth and featureless now, worn down by 1,000 passing touches. The grinning face of bees is dark with the smoke of a decade of evening incense. These objects have become part of the house itself, as integral as the mud minus brick walls and the wooden roof beams. They are relics of a war that was won so long ago. The enemy is no longer even a memory. There is only peace. And there is Mew. He is no longer a sleek young cat, but a grand old patriarch. His muzzle is touched with grey. He walks with a stiffer, more deliberate grace, and he spends most of his days sleeping in the warmest patch of sun he can find. He is a permanent, essential piece of your family, a quiet, very anchor that holds your world in place. One evening, you are sitting by the hearth, watching Marat teach your daughter how to spin thread. The rhythm of the spindle is a soft, whirring whisper. Mew lies before the fire, not asleep, but watching the flames, his golden eyes reflecting the dancing light. You look at him, this creature who wandered into your life and became its center, and you wonder how this small, ordinary animal can contain so much power, so much peace. You have heard the priests and the storytellers speak of it. They say that the eyes of a cat are special. They believe that during the day, a cat's eyes soak up the golden light of the sun, storing it away, and at night, they release this captured sunlight back into the world, which is why they seem to glow in the dark. A cat's gaze, they say, is a small piece of the sun, pushing back the darkness. It's a beautiful thought, a piece of poetry to explain a mystery. It connects these small, domestic creatures directly to the great sun god Ra, and to Bastet, his daughter. Mew turns his head and looks directly at you. His pupils are wide in the dim light, two black pools surrounded by a ring of liquid gold, and looking into them, you see more than just the reflection of the fire. You feel a presence. It is a gaze that is ancient, calm, and deeply intelligent. It is a gaze of absolute knowing. In that moment, the barrier between the animal and the divine dissolves. You are not looking at your pet. You are being seen by the goddess herself. Her presence is not in the temple at Bastet, not in the amulet, not in the statue. It is here. It is in the warm, living, breathing creature purring by your fire. This is her truest incarnation. The academic arguments of a future time would puzzle over this. Was the veneration of animals a sophisticated theological concept, where the animal was merely a symbolic representation, a BA- manifestation of the god? Or was it a more primal, animistic belief that the god literally was the animal? Looking into Mew's eyes, you know the answer is irrelevant. The distinction is meaningless. Here's Mew, your companion, who loves the warmth of the fire and the taste of fish. And he is Bastet, the slayer of serpents, the lady of the east, whose gaze holds the light of the sun. The two are not separate. They are one. He blinks, a slow, deliberate closing and opening of his eyes. In your culture, this is not a sign of tiredness. You have learned it from the old women that a cat's slow blink is a sign of ultimate trust and affection. A gesture that says, I am at peace with you, I see you, and I will not harm you. It is a blessing. You slowly blink back at him. It is a silent conversation, a communion between a man and his god, a man and his friend. In this quiet moment, the entire journey clicks into place. The whispers, the fear, the frantic journey, the great festival, it was all along, winding road that leads you right back here, to this simple, profound truth. You did not need to go to Bastet to find the goddess. You needed to go to Bastet to learn how to see her. Right here, in your own home. You lets out a soft sigh, curls into a tighter ball, and closes his eyes, content in the knowledge that his world is in order. And you are content too. The story of the haunting is over. It has become just that, a story, a tale to be told on a cold night. But the protection is eternal. It is in the steady breathing of your children, in the scent of incense in the air, and in the golden, sun-minus filled eyes of a sleeping cat.